During the vacation, my boyfriend wanted to sneak into the forbidden zone of life on Demon Mountain for an adventure. I tried my best to dissuade him and held him back, not letting him go. In the end, the others lost their lives. And their death scenes were extremely horrible. We, who had escaped the disaster, cherished each other even more and got married after graduation. After getting married, he gained my father's trust, took over the company, and became a young talent highly praised by the media. As soon as my father died, he showed his ferocious face. He tied me up, poured a bag of snakes, insects, rats, and ants over me, and let me be gnawed to death by them in great panic and pain. Before I died, I asked him reluctantly why he treated me like this. With his eyes red, he roared, "If you hadn't stopped me from entering the forbidden zone back then, Slyvia wouldn't have died." It turned out that he had secretly harbored a grudge against me for the death of his first love on Diamond Mountain. He had just been biding his time until he could get his hands on my family's property. When I opened my eyes again, I was reborn on the day of climbing Demon Mountain. Up ahead is the heart of the mountain, which the locals call the forbidden zone of life. Should we continue going in? Vernon's voice rang in my ears, and I was startled. When I opened my eyes, I saw him, still young and green, asking me with an excited expression on his face. I blinked blankly. In my memory, Vernon eyed my hands and let snakes, spiders, scorpions, caterpillars, rats, and other creatures crawl all over my body. At that time, he said to me with a look of resentment, "The pain and fear you're suffering now are less than 1/10,000th of what Slyvia endured. If you hadn't stopped me from going on the adventure in the forbidden zone with Slyvia back then, with my protection, she wouldn't have died a tragic death. You've lived a happy life for so many years. And now it's time for you to go down there and kneel to apologize to her." Regardless of the fact that I was carrying his child, he sat aside and watched me with a terrified face, being bitten to death by those snakes, insects, rats, and ants with great interest. Thinking back on it, I shuddered again. Goosebumps rose all over my body, and my heart twitched violently. Of course we should continue going in. The purpose of my coming here is to sneak into the forbidden zone for excitement, not to stay in this boring scenic area. Slyvia's clear voice sounded nonchalantly. I turned to look at her. She was holding a live-streaming selfie stick in her hand, wearing a red Miao ethnic group costume rented from a folk custom store. With delicate makeup, she was beautiful and bright under the silver-decorated Miao hat, and her slender waist was so slender that it could be encircled with one hand. I used to be really careless and didn't notice the burning and affectionate gaze Vernon had when looking at her. She and I were roommates. From the first day of school, she enthusiastically wanted to be my best friend and introduced the handsome and talented Vernon to me. I had always thought that she and Vernon were just ordinary high school classmates. I never expected that she was Vernon's first love whom he had a crush on. She insisted on breaking into the forbidden zone and died, but Vernon could blame me for this. He took my family's property and killed me. Maybe my father's death was also related to him. After all, only when my father was dead could he deal with me. The intense hatred made my heart tighten, and it almost couldn't supply enough blood. With a pale face, I leaned against a tree trunk and sat down, gasping for fresh air. Only then did I feel a little better. Vernon squatted down and asked with concern, "Dawn, are you not feeling well?" When I saw his hypocritical face, a wave of nausea welled up in my throat, and I couldn't help but vomit with the sound of "Oh, you were fine just now. Why do you suddenly look like this?" "Dawn, you couldn't have been so scared by the idea of us breaking into the forbidden zone that you've omitted, could you?" Slyvia sneered at me and said, "What a timid and cowardly young lady from the city." "Well, I'm timid and not in good health either. I won't go on the adventure in the forbidden zone with you." I took a sip of water, caught my breath, and pretended to be nonchalant as I said, "You really let us down at the crucial moment. You're so useless, Dawn." Slyvia muttered in dissatisfaction, then turned to look at Vernon. "Vernon, do you want to stay and accompany Dawn?" Vernon looked at Slyvia, then at me, hesitating. After all, he was my boyfriend now. And it would be hard to justify leaving his girlfriend behind. No need to accompany me. I can go down the mountain by myself. Have a good time. Afraid that Vernon would stay for the sake of face, I quickly said. In this life, I can't let him hold a grudge against me again. Let's respect other people's fates. Vernon still had a hesitant look on his face. Are you really sure you can manage on your own? I'll accompany her. A girl among our group came forward and said, I sprained my ankle just now. I can't walk far and I don't want to go in either. This girl was the girlfriend of one of Vernon's classmates. Her name was Hope, and I didn't know her at all. I vaguely remembered that in Slyvia's live stream, this girl was the first one to die. She was strangled to death by a huge python and then swallowed, and the scene was extremely horrible. Great. It's even better to have you with me. I quickly grabbed Hope's hand and looked up at Vernon. It's very dangerous inside the Forbidden Zone. You have to help me protect Slyvia well. I will. Vernon nodded. And his gaze towards Slyvia became even more passionate. Let's go. Go. Slyvia was full of excitement. She was the first to crouch down and break through the barbed wire fence set up in the Forbidden Zone. Holding the live streaming selfie stick and walking ahead. Vernon quickly followed, carefully protecting her by her side. Hope's boyfriend also followed. The two men, like flower protectors, escorted Slyvia forward carefully. When I saw them walking away, I turned to look at Hope beside me and found that the way she was staring at their backs was as if poisoned. Full of resentment. I felt something was wrong and couldn't help but ask tentatively. Did you come back through reincarnation? Hope's face froze. And she looked at me in disbelief. Did you also come back through reincarnation? I nodded. Hope asked in confusion. You clearly know that they will die if they go in. So why didn't you stop your boyfriend? In my previous life, I stopped him. And he held a grudge in his heart. In the end, he made me die a tragic death. Just thinking about those snakes, insects, rats, and ants crawling on my body made my heart tremble with fear. And goose and straws all over my body. Hope was even more confused. Why did he hold a grudge against you? He's still alive and well, isn't he? Because he thought it was me who stopped him. Which led to him failing to protect Slyvia well. So, he blamed me for Slyvia's death. It wasn't until he took over my family's property that he erupted. He tied me to a chair and poured a bag of snakes, insects, rats, ants, and scorpions over me. After hearing this, Hope was so angry that she trembled all over. Those scumbag men are all no good. I asked her. Then why didn't you stop your boyfriend? Hope gritted her teeth, her face full of resentment. Me stop him? I wish he could die immediately. Do you know? In my previous life, in order to protect Slyvia, he directly pushed me towards the mouth of the python. And I was swallowed by that huge python. I thought my boyfriend was bad enough. But I didn't expect your boyfriend to be even worse and more vicious. Pah. Scumbag men. Let's see how they court death. I cursed and took out my phone to open Slyvia's live streaming room. She had already started the live stream excitedly. Her ID was Miao which. Usually, whenever she had time, she would rent various Miao ethnic group costumes from the folk custom clothing store. Using the special effects technology she had specifically learned, she would post some mysterious videos. Many netizens believed that she was really a Miao witch and adored and praised her in various ways. Some even added all kinds of mysterious colors to her with their rich imaginations. A few days ago, there was a blogger on the internet who claimed to be the Miao priestess. She live-streamed her solo adventure in Demon Mountain and spent 2 days and 1 night inside in a mysterious way. All of a sudden, her number of fans soared by hundreds of thousands. And the story became more and more mysterious as it spread. Slyvia was envious, jealous, and unwilling. So, she planned this trip to Demon Mountain. At first, I thought we were just going to walk around in the scenic area. So I came along. I didn't expect that her real purpose was to break into the Forbidden Zone, to compete with that priestess, and to prove that she was also a real Miao witch to attract more traffic and fans. Hundreds of people had entered Slyvia's live streaming room, and they were all sending out bullet comments and giving gifts, making it really lively. Of course, In order to show that she was alone breaking into the forbidden zone. No other people appeared in her camera. In fact, besides Vernon and Hope's boyfriend, there were 4 other people. She really is a Miao witch. She's so brave. She's a witch. So she must be different from us ordinary people. When a huge python sees her, it should probably kneel down and kowtow to her. Even a black bear would only serve as her mount when it sees her. Not to mention those lowly creatures like snakes, insects, rats, and ants. She grew up playing with the 5 poisons. Witch, I admire you so much. You're beautiful and mysterious. I wonder which man will be lucky enough to marry you. If the witch meets a man she likes, will she use a love boo on him? Looking at those blindly adoring words in the bullet comments, I found it ridiculous. This generation of netizens is really easy to deceive. They have relentlessly shaped an ordinary girl into a unique witch with their imagination. Snake. A huge python. Suddenly, someone typed such a line in the live streaming room. Hope, who had been watching the live stream, suddenly had a strange look in her eyes. Her back was stiff and tense. She tightly grabbed my hand. Her palm was sweating, and her body was shaking. I carefully looked at the scene in the camera. Sure enough, in the dense jungle not far from the camera, a huge python with black and white stripes was moving. The snake's head suddenly lifted up towards the camera, spitting out its red snake tongue. In the live streaming room, subtitles full of panic and shouts were flying everywhere. Of course, there were also those who were excited and expectant. Witch, quickly tame this huge python and make it your mount, and let it take you parading and shuttling through the mountains and fields. I've already imagined this scene. It's so beautiful and exciting. Suddenly, having filled me with a scream, the camera shook, went dark, and fell to the ground with a slap sound. Only a few tree shadows could be seen. Something's not right. Why did I hear the witch's scream? Is she also scared? I heard it too. And there were also a few male voices. Then the witch must have been scared by those men. She must have screamed because she was afraid that the huge python would hurt them. Those self-righteous men who don't know their limits actually dare to break into the entrance of the demon world. Don't they think they have the same abilities as the witch? What the witch is afraid of isn't animals, but people. Are witches so beautiful? What if those men have evil intentions? Could it be that the witch screamed because she was bullied by men? Damn men. I really wish I had superpowers to protect our witch. While the bullet comments were frantically discussing, the camera became clear again. Slyvia appeared in front of the camera and said with a look of guilt, "Dear viewers, just now, in order to save a tourist, I accidentally kicked over the stand, making you worry. I wonder how many kowtows that tourist must have kowtowed in his previous life, to have the witch save him in this life? If it wasn't for meeting our witch, the consequences would have been unimaginable. By the way, witch, what about that huge python just now? Is it now obediently tamed at your feet?" "Yeah. Where's the huge python?" In the face of everyone's questioning, Slyvia said inferently, "I'm not here to tame animals. I have a private mission to execute. The python is a spiritual animal. I want to show it respect and signal it to leave so as not to startle the tourists around me. All living beings are equal, and our witch lady has truly achieved this. My witch lady, please accept my bow. I only have one idol in my life, and that is the witch lady. She completely meets all my imaginations of a witch. I hope I can have the opportunity to meet the witch lady in this life and sincerely offer my knees." In addition to the crazy compliments in the subtitles, various gifts were also being sent like snowflakes. I counted them and found that the rewards had actually reached a value of tens of thousands of yuan. Slyvia smiled happily like a blooming flower. She made her voice ethereal, low, and mysterious. After saying something mysterious, she pretended to be regretful and said, "Originally, having fulfilled my obsession, I wanted to enter the heart of the mountain alone to execute my private mission. But I met several stubborn college students who insisted on following me to take risks inside, to protect their safety. I had to agree. Everyone, don't be surprised if you see them in the live broadcast later. Only our witch lady is kind-hearted and willing to protect these stupid but innocent college students." Witch lady, Can you show us what the college students under your protection look like? I also want to see those arrogant and stupid college students. At the request of the subtitles, Slyvia turned the camera towards Vernon and the others. Vernon greeted them warmly. Oh. This male college student is quite handsome. He's exactly my type. If I were the witch lady, I'd immediately cast a love spell on him. Ugh. I've imagined a love story between the witch lady and the male college student again. Who can write it? I really want to read it. I kept staring at the live broadcast screen and noticed that someone was missing. I took a closer look and asked Hope, "Isn't your boyfriend in there anymore?" Hope nodded. Yeah. I don't see him in front of the camera. Do you think he was swallowed by the python just now? Is that why the python left? It's very likely. In the last life, after the python swallowed you, it also left. This time, without me as a shield, it was him who was pushed out and swallowed. It's really retribution. Hope smiled with tears in her eyes. Her expression complex. Then I saw that in the live broadcast, Slyvia and Vernon's hands were holding each other. She made a mysterious gesture and suddenly kissed Vernon on the mouth. The sudden happiness made Vernon stare blankly with his eyes wide open. Honey. I've cast a love spell on you. From now on, you can only love me for the rest of your life. Otherwise, you'll be backlashed by the goo worm and die. Slyvia lifted Vernon's chin, who was still dazed from her kiss, looking mischievous and charming with an evil allure. I will definitely love you for the rest of my life. Vernon, heading Slyvia, who was overjoyed and flattered, came to his senses and raised his hands ecstatically to swear. If I violate this oath, I will be eaten by thousands of insects and die a miserable death. Wow. So this is the charm of the love spell. The handsome male college student has fallen in love with our witch lady like this. I really want to be able to cast a love spell too. Witch lady, please accept my kneeling as your disciple. Before, I thought the love spell was just made up in novels. I didn't expect it to be real. If only I could cast a love spell, then my male god would never be able to escape from my grasp in this life. I want to be able to do it too. Cut. You're so easy to deceive. I know them. I'm their high school classmate. Just then, a discordant subtitle popped up. Before everyone could react, that person was kicked out of the live broadcast room by Slyvia and added to the blacklist. It's a pity that the subtitle popped up too fast. Except for a few sharp-eyed people, no one saw it. Even if they saw it, they thought it was just someone causing trouble and didn't take it to heart at all. After the official announcement in the live broadcast room, Vernon and Slyvia no longer shied away from the camera. They kept holding hands and hugging, being very affectionate, just like a couple deeply in love. The live broadcast room was filled with blessings and envy for them. Only I, with eyes as venomous as if poisoned, stared at them full of anger, wishing I could turn into a black bear and beat them to death. The scenery in the live broadcast room also started to become more and more mysterious and fantastical. A thick fog filled the air. There were strangely shaped and crooked tree trunks, and dense thickets. Vaguely, there were also the sounds of various animals. Some sounded like they were laughing heartily, and some like babies crying. The bullet comments in the live broadcast room started to change their style and once again let their imaginations run wild. I also put aside my hatred for Vernon and stared curiously at the scene in the live broadcast room. The Magic Mountain really deserves to be called the entrance to the demon realm. It really resembles the demon realm in the fantasy blockbusters we usually watch. I'm a bit scared and want to go back. I'm scared too. I feel something's not right. My brain feels a bit oxygen and deprived. I don't know if I've been affected by the miasma. A scorpion. The voices of several people came from the live broadcast room. With me here. What are you afraid of? Slyvia's impatient voice sounded. Yeah. With our witch lady here. What's there to be afraid of? It's such a pity that I'm not one of those college students. Otherwise, I could go on an adventure with the witch lady. This would be an unforgettable experience for a lifetime. Something I could brag about for 3 lifetimes. Exactly. I suggest the witch lady take me next time. Pretending to be mysterious and acting like it's real. I'm not playing with you anymore. I want to go back now. Who wants to come with me? An angry voice sounded. I recognized it as the voice of the sports committee member in Vernon's class. In the last life, he also seemed to turn back halfway and leave to save his life. Slyvia's live broadcast room suddenly closed. About 10 minutes later, it was opened again. Slyvia and Vernon's faces appeared in front of the camera. Slyvia said with a helpless expression, "Everyone. Now it's just me and my man left. The others have all become deserters. It's good that they left. At least they won't be the third wheel. That's right. Now they don't have the protection of the witch lady. I hope they won't be swallowed by the big python. It's very possible. After all, this is already a restricted area. Maybe the black bear has been eyeing them for a long time. It's just that it's afraid of the witch lady and doesn't dare to approach." With fresh male college students coming to their doorstep, the black bears must be very happy. In the camera, Vernon took Slyvia's hand and said with a determined and affectionate expression, "I will accompany my witch lady until the end. I believe she can take me on an adventure in this mysterious restricted area of life and give me a different experience." Wow. Loving you means believing in you unconditionally. Look at his eyes. That's true love. Of course. Not to mention that the witch lady cast a love spell on him. Even if she didn't, who could meet the witch lady and not fall in love with her? I love her now and want to give my heart to her. She's not an ordinary girl. She's the witch lady of the Miao village in the 10,000 Great Mountains and is recognized by the state to be the unique man of the witch lady. I'm so envious that my teeth are bleeding. A lot of people entered the live broadcast room again. However, the style was a bit different this time. Section id article truck, I told you so. My mom should come here to sell melatonin. Nowadays, netizens don't need to wait until they're old to boost their brain power. They need it now. Vernon and Slyvia are both students from Class 1. Grade 2023 of Zhongcheng No. 1 Middle School. And they were admitted to the Department of Business Administration of Yunbai University. They're not from any ethnic minority. Vernon has another girlfriend. A poor girl named Dawn. Who doesn't even know she's being exploited. This Slyvia was called a public bus in our school before. Whenever she saw a boy with a girlfriend, she would act like a green tea girl and be friendly with the boy, causing many couples to break up. I'm from their class. Half of the boys in our class liked her. After all, these boys have poor ability to recognize a scheming girl. They thought she was pure and innocent. Straightforward and cute. Slyvia looked at these subtitles. Instead of panicking, she had an indifferent and contemptuous expression and said, "As expected, when a person becomes popular, there are more rumors. Someone is afraid that I'll steal her limelight and has started to send a large number of online trolls to smear me. I don't want to prove anything. Whether you believe it or not is up to you. Surely someone is jealous of our witch lady's huge amount of traffic and rewards. I'll send another rocket to the witch lady now to make those people so jealous that their eyes go blind. I'll send one too. I'll send one as well." All of a sudden, various gifts were being sent in the live broadcast room again. And there were quite a few rockets among them. Slyvia smiled so that her eyes curved like crescent moons. And her complacency could hardly be hidden. She inserted the selfie stick into the ground to fix the camera, took out a picnic mat and spread it on the grass, and sat together with Vernon to eat and replenish their energy. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the live broadcast room. I took a closer look and saw that two big black bears were appearing in the thicket behind Slyvia and Vernon. The two of them were hugging and being affectionate, feeding each other and showing off their love. It seemed that they didn't notice the situation at all. The black bears are here. Has the witch lady not noticed? I'm scared. What are you afraid of? They're just black bears. They've all been tamed by the witch lady. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the witch lady tames the black bears. Lao. Will the witch lady turn them into mounts? I've imagined the witch lady in a red dress sitting on a black bear. Oh, just thinking about it makes my blood boil. The two big black bears tiptoed closer to Vernon and the other person. Vernon turned his head to wipe his nose. Out of the corner of his eye, he saw the two approaching black bears and was so scared that he exclaimed, "My God!" and quickly climbed up a big tree next to him like a monkey. When Slyvia saw the approaching black bears, she let out a scream and also wanted to climb the tree. However, she didn't know how to climb at all. She could only keep jumping up and down and asking Vernon to call her up. Her beautiful face turned pale with fear, and she looked extremely embarrassed. The live broadcast room fell silent instantly. Someone slowly typed out a black man's question mark. The others also followed with a series of question marks. It was said that she could tame all things. Why is she so afraid of the black bears? This guy ran faster than a rabbit when he saw the danger. Is this love so superficial? Ahahaha. Do you still believe she's a witch now? I told you. She's my classmate. An ordinary girl. She just likes to cosplay as a girl from the Miao region. The clothes she's wearing were all rented from the folk costume store at the school gate. That thing about spitting out snakes and scorpions is just a 5-cent special effect. Damn. She's actually a liar. Give me back my money for the rocket. Give me back my money for the rocket. And netizens in the live streaming room were all filled with righteous indignation and called for the return of their gifts. At this moment, two black bears had already approached Slyvia. With nowhere else to go, Slyvia had no choice but to lie down on the ground, hold her breath, close her eyes, and pretend to be dead. The fans in the live streaming room had completely believed that she was an ordinary person. The higher they had praised Slyvia before, the lower they were now rambling on her. Human nature. The two black bears sniffed around Slyvia's face. Finding no movement, they looked up at Vernon in the tree. There was also a slender snake hanging beside Vernon, staring at him menacingly and spitting out its snake tongue, which scared him so much that he wet his pants. The urine ripping from his trouser leg just happened to drip onto Slyvia's face and mouth. The fishy smell of the urine made Slyvia's stomach contract instantly, and with a sound of ooh, she vomited. Hearing the noise, one of the black bears quickly pounced forward, stretched out its big black paw, and slapped Slyvia's face. Slyvia let out a scream and stood up. The other black bear gave up climbing the tree, bared its teeth, and took a bite on Slyvia's face, tearing off half of her face. Slyvia let out another scream and fell to the ground. Vernon, having fulfilled Viant Sai, who was in the tree, was just congratulating himself on having escaped disaster. Suddenly, the snake beside him rushed towards him like an arrow and bit his left eye. Vernon also let out a scream and fell from the tree. The two black bears released Slyvia and pounced on Vernon. Under their biting and slapping, Vernon's screams kept coming. A group of mountain forest protection personnel rushed over in a hurry. They scared the black bears away with a gas gun and rescued the two people who were on the verge of death. Thanks to the timely rescue, Vernon and Slyvia managed to save their lives. Slyvia was severely disfigured. As for Vernon, he lost one eye, broke one leg, and suffered serious internal injuries to his lungs. He lay in the ICU for a week before being transferred to a general ward. Vernon called me and asked me to visit him. Of course, I was more than happy to see his pitiful state. Lying in the hospital bed, Vernon looked like a ghost. An ugly, thin, wet and weak ghost. Vernon's mother was by his side, with her head lowered and tears in her eyes. When she saw me, her pitiful expression immediately changed into a harsh scolding. You're Vernon's girlfriend, right? Vernon has been in the hospital for a week. And why haven't you come to see him? How can you be so heartless? In my previous life, she was also extremely mean and sarcastic to me. She always thought that I was not good enough for her son. When I married her son, I was supposed to become the private property of the Vernon family. And everything in my family would also belong to the Vernon family. A few years after marriage, I couldn't get pregnant. She scolded me as a hen that couldn't lay eggs and told Vernon to keep several other women outside to have sons for him. Otherwise, no matter how much money there was in the family, it would be useless. At that time, I still loved Vern and deeply. I tolerated her feudal mindset and didn't want to argue with her, so as not to affect our relationship as husband and wife. Now Pa. I directly rolled my eyes at her. Auntie, your son's girlfriend is Slyvia. People all over the country saw them together in the live streaming room. That damn vixen. If it weren't for her, my Vernon wouldn't have had this accident. I want to tear that bitch apart. After Vernon's mother put her hands on her hips and cursed Slyvia, she turned to look at me. Girl, I think you're much better than that damn Slyvia. I approve of you being my Vernon's girlfriend. Theft. I burst out laughing. Is your Vernon a crown prince? Do I have to rush to be his girlfriend? Is it something to be proud of? Vernon's mother said matter-of-factly, my Vernon is smart and handsome. It's naturally a glorious thing to be his girlfriend. If it weren't for Vernon's injury now, it wouldn't be your turn to be his girlfriend. Since you're his girlfriend, go and pay his medical bills right away. I said angrily, stop right there. I'm not his girlfriend. And I won't pay a single penny of his medical bills. Why don't you go outside and see if there's a fool who's willing to be his girlfriend? But I don't think you'll find one. After all, he's blind and disabled now. And he really looks terrible. Why didn't you stop me this time? Vernon asked me with hatred in his eyes. Hearing this, I knew that he had also been reborn at this moment. I said coldly, don't you have a clue in your mind about why I didn't stop you? Since you've also been reborn, you know for yourself what the consequences would be if I stopped you. So, as you wished, I let you go and protect Slyvia. Don't hold me responsible for her death anymore. Vernon's face froze for a moment, and he lowered his eyebrows to apologize. Dawn. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Of course you were wrong. But I won't forgive you. And I won't have any relationship with you anymore. I wish you and Slyvia would be tied together for the rest of your lives. After saying that, I turned around happily and was about to leave. Vernon's mother stepped forward and grabbed my arm. You can't leave. I heard that your family is rich. You have to help me pay the medical bills. I rolled my eyes at her. Do I look like a brainless philanthropist to you? Even if I were a philanthropist, I would only donate money to other people, not to disgusting people like you. Vernon's mother shrieked, Girl, you're so young. Why do you speak so rudely? It's just over 100 cows, and due on in medical bills. I'm asking you to pay, which is giving you face. I sneered, you two mother and son don't even have any shame. How can you give others face? Enough. Dawn. Vernon on the bed shouted sternly, I'm the one who's sorry for you. Why are you insulting my mother? If she hadn't grabbed me and spouted nonsense, I'd rather talk to a dog. You're saying my mother is worse than a dog? Dawn. Is this all the education you have? Vernon was so angry that his whole body shook. He touched his wound and coughed violently a few times, spitting out a mouthful of bloody phlegm. Vernon's mother was so scared that she quickly let go of me and went to check on her precious son. I was too lazy to argue and quickly walked out of the ward. At first, I was sorry that Vernon hadn't been killed by the black bears. Now I think it's even better that he didn't die. Let him live a life worse than death like this. Only in this way can he slowly feel how miserable his life is. 9 Passing by Slyvia's ward, I saw her inside, throwing a mirror around and crying and scolding Vernon for ruining her. Indeed, without Vernon's piss, the 2 black bears would have laughed and wouldn't have come back to slap and bite her. I thought for a moment and pushed the door open and went in. As soon as she saw me, her red and tearful eyes lit up. She stepped forward and grabbed my hand, saying excitedly, Dawn, I knew you were kind. You won't just leave me like this, will you? Am I your father or your mother? Why should I care about you? I shook off her hand with a cold face and asked angrily. You're my best friend and roommate. Your family is so rich. Can you lend me $1,000,000 so that I can go to South Korea for plastic surgery? I will definitely pay you back in the future. Slyvia said anxiously. I refused flatly, no. Why? Do you also dislike me now? Slyvia said pitifully with tears in her eyes. In the past, this expression of hers had been quite effective in front of me. However, the prerequisite for being a green tea girl is to have a pretty face. Now instead of making people feel pity, it makes people even more disgusted. I gave her a disdainful look and asked, Slyvia, would a best friend and roommate steal someone else's boyfriend? As soon as I mentioned Vernon, Slyvia became angrily agitated. That useless and cowardly man isn't even worth my stealing. At that time, it was just for the live streaming effect. And it wasn't real. Dawn. You have to believe me. It doesn't matter. Anyway, hade fulfilled my obsession. I don't want that lousy man either. As for you, I don't care about you anymore. It's Vernon's fault that you ended up like this. Not mine. If you want money, ask him for it. Slyvia said contemptuously. His family is so poor that they can't even afford his medical bills. What's the point of asking him? I gave her a friendly reminder. Doesn't his family have a house? Selling it can get 1,000,000 yuan. He should compensate you for this. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been injured by the black bears. As for me, I won't lend you a single penny. I have no obligation to do so. In my previous life, I listened to Vernon and didn't pay much attention to my studies. I barely managed to pass the exams and graduate by cramming at the last minute. After graduation, the two of us joined my family's company together. It turned out that my father had planned to train me as his successor. I was brainwashed by Vernon's love words. You take care of being beautiful, and I'll take care of making money to support the family. I gave all the important tasks in the company to Vernon, while I just indulged in eating, drinking, having fun, and slacking off. My father had no choice but to place his hopes for the company on Vernon. He regarded his son-in-law as his own son and gradually delegated power to him. As for me, I thought working was too hard. So I simply stopped going to work and idled around at home. In the end, the company fell into Vernon's hands. The day after he became the chairman of the company, my parents had a car accident. On the third day, he couldn't wait to kill me. Fortunately, having fulfilled my upside, I was able to be reborn. In this life, I won't be stupid anymore. I won't let the company that my parents worked so hard to establish fall into the hands of others. And I won't let myself become a useless person who can be killed without any scruples. I study hard, take the IELTS exam, and apply for a postgraduate degree in business administration at Harvard University, hoping to become a qualified successor to my father and a powerful businesswoman in the business world. Slyvia went to force Vernon to give her money for plastic surgery. But Vernon's mother grabbed her by the hair and beat her up. Then she pushed Slyvia down the stairs, causing a serious fracture in her right leg. The people from Slyvia's family sued Vernon's mother. Vernon's mother had to compensate Slyvia 1,000,000 yuan. Naturally, she didn't have the money to pay the compensation, so the court could only force the auction of the Vernon family's house. Vernon's mother was so angry that she lost her mind and became crazy. Vernon didn't have the money to continue his treatment, and he was forced to be discharged from the hospital. He had no house, no money. His mother was crazy, and he himself was blind in one eye, disabled in one leg, and a sickly person with internal injuries. After being discharged from the hospital, he could only live a difficult life with his mother in an abandoned and pigsty house of someone else's. When I scored 8.5 in the IELTS and received an offer from Harvard University, Vernon came to me, knelt down in front of me, and cried remorsefully, saying, "Dawn, I was wrong. I was really wrong. The person I should love the most is you, not Slyvia. Please give me a chance. I will definitely love you well and only love you." I bent down, dragged him in front of a nearby store, and forced him to look at the mirror. Vernon, having fulfilled what I'd say, look at yourself in the mirror and see what a mess you are now. Then look at me. I'm the only daughter of a company president, rich and good-looking. Now I've received an offer from Harvard University and will inherit the company when I come back after graduation. I'm a top-level wealthy and beautiful woman. Do you think you're worthy of me? You're just like a toad craving for a swan. And that's exactly you. Vernon looked at himself in the mirror. He was as ugly as a monster and dressed shabbily. And I, beautiful, young, and confident, was like a lofty white swan. He couldn't bear it anymore. Let out a scream, and crashed into the mirror. The mirror shattered, stabbing his face and making the blood flow freely. He became even uglier. I didn't look back and left quickly, in case he tried to pester me. The school leader called me and asked me to hurry back to the school, saying that Vernon was on the rooftop and insisted on seeing me, or he would jump off. I was originally too lazy to care, but I couldn't resist the leader's earnest pleading. After all, the school would be held responsible if something happened to the student, so I had to rush over in a hurry. When Vernon saw me, He said loudly. Dawn. I love you. In the next life, I will definitely choose only you. Wait for me. After saying that, in full view of everyone, he jumped down. With a thud, he fell in front of me, blood splashing everywhere, and was smashed into a pulp. The people around were frightened and let out shrill screams, falling into chaos. I felt nothing in my heart and just looked at Vernon, who was covered in blood and flesh. Quietly. TSK. It's such a pity that he died so quickly. He should have been allowed to live to a ripe old age looking poor and ugly, watching me thrive and live a happy and fulfilling life. After Vernon's death, I didn't get reborn again, but started my magnificent life. After graduating from Harvard University, I worked hard in other big companies for a few years to make myself capable enough, and then returned to my own company. Under my management, the company has expanded twice as large as when Vernon was in charge in the previous life, and it was successfully listed, with assets exceeding 10 billion yuan. Yun, Wadarna Sai. Beautiful, Eiffel. Rich. And capable. I was rated as a perfect woman by netizens. There are many people pursuing me, from the royal family to the financial magnates. However, I don't need love and won't stay for a certain man for a long time. If one day I really get married, it may not be because of love, but for the needs of my career. The end of the full text.